Welcome back to another Read With Me session. I'm yours truly, Isabel, and I'm here to read with you another amazing chapter on the compound effect. And it's by Darren Hardy. We are here to read, and I'm really excited about this one because the last Read With Me session that we did yesterday, it was all about how to actually behave, right? What is the actual formula? And just as a recap, this is it. You plus your choices, which are your decisions, your behavior, which are your actions, habit, which is repeated action, and then plus time or compounded equals what your goals are. So basically going over how your behavior really will compound itself if you're very, very clear about it. If you're very clear on your specific goals, you will be able to accomplish them if you apply that formula and if you are aware of how that formula works into your favor. Not a lot of people know that that's a formula, and they don't know that it's for them. Like, it's designed for them, for you, to take advantage of whatever it is that you want to accomplish in the world. So I'm really, really excited about that because it's not something that is new. It's more like you just have to remember what's available to you. And here's another one. We're going to get into the 5 strategies for eliminating bad habits. So this is going to be a really good one if you're at a point in your life. If you're at a point in your life where you are ready to commit to change, if you are ready to take the next level within your business, your life, your relationships, your self-confidence, your self-worth, your self-talk, and you're ready to just expand and reach new heights, this is the chapter that will significantly just increase momentum for you. So let's get into it, shall we? Awesome. All right, these are the 5 game changers. These are the 5 strategies for eliminating bad habits. Your habits, they're learned. Therefore, they can be unlearned. If you want to sail your life in a new direction, you have to first pick up the anchors of bad habits that have been weighing you down. The key is to make your why power so strong that it overwhelms your urges for instant gratification. And for that, you need a new game plan. The following are my all-time favorite game changers. Here's number 1. Identify your triggers. Identifying your triggers. Look at your list of bad habits. For each one you've written down, identify what triggers it. Figure out what I call the big 4s: the who, the what, the where, and the when, underlying each bad behavior. So for example, are you more likely to drink too much when you're with certain people? Is there a particular time of the day when you just have to have something sweet? What emotions tend to provoke your worst habits? Stress, fatigue, anger, nervousness, boredom? When do you experience those emotions? Who are you with? Where are you? Or what are you doing? What situations prompt your bad habits to surface? Getting in your car, the time before performance reviews, visits with your in-laws, conferences, social settings, feeling physically insecure, deadlines. Take a closer look at your routines. What do you typically say when you wake up? When you're on a coffee or a lunch break? When you've gotten home from a long day? What type of routines do you have in place right now? Again, get out your notebook or use the Bad Habit Killer worksheet and now write down your triggers. This simple action alone increases your awareness exponentially. But of course, this isn't the whole enchilada, because as we've discussed, increasing your awareness of a bad habit isn't enough to break it. Number 2, clean house. This is a good one. Get to scrubbing. And I mean this literally and figuratively. If you want to stop drinking alcohol, remove it, every single drop of it from your house. Get rid of the glasses, any fancy utensils or doodads you use when you drink, or those decorative olives too. If you want to stop watching so much television at night, cancel all your cable, Netflix, or other subscription services. If you're trying to curb your spending, take an evening and cancel every catalog or retail offer that flies into your mailbox or your inbox or your mailbox. So you won't even need to muster the discipline to walk it from the front door to the recycle bin. And if you want to eat more healthfully, clean your cupboards of all the crap. Stop buying the junk food and stop buying into the argument that it's not fair to deny the other people in your family junk food because food simply because you don't want it in your life, and everyone in your family is better off without it. Don't bring it into the house, period. Get rid of whatever enables your bad habits. And I gotta just say one thing in here. I have my parents here for like a whole week, which is awesome. And when we were growing up, my parents were like anti drinking soda, anti drinking, or anti like candy, anti sugar, all that. And as we grew up, like I rebelled by, having sweets or whatever. And my brother did too. I never got to the point where it was like bad for me, but I can see how it can be bad for, let's say, my brother, or it can be bad for my dad, where they're more prone to other things. So like now, looking at them now, like the other day, they're like such kids, like it's amazing how our life just flips. As you get older, you become more kid-like, and then as we grow, we tend to let go of these limiting beliefs. And like when they come over to our house, like we don't have any soda, we don't have any junk food or anything. We have like popcorn, and we have nuts, and we have fruit, and we have all these different things. And then they're like, I think we need to go to the supermarket. And with that, like I got to see how their patterns are, and I remember, like, I'm so grateful that I broke those patterns, not saying that they're bad or anything, but they don't align with my lifestyle now. And if you are not aware of those things, if you're not like able to say, "Ooh, I see that, that's not for me, I recognize that," and you're not able to like take the next step to actually stop yourself from getting that extra slice of cheese, or whatever it is that you're gonna get, or that comfort food, then it's like you're stuck in this treadmill or this hamster wheel where like you can't get out of it. And a lot of the things, like Darren Hardy was saying, it's literally just patterns from the past trying to creep into your present and trying to dictate your future. So just clean house. This is so important. All right, number 3, swap it. Look again at your list of bad habits and how can you alter them so they're not as harmful? Can you replace them with healthier habits, or drop kick them altogether, as in for good? Anyone who knows me knows that I love something sweet after a meal. I can definitely relate to this. If there is ice cream in the house, that something turned into a triple scoop banana split with all the fixings, over 1,200 calories. Instead, I have replaced that bad habit with 2 Hershey's Kisses, 50 calories. And in more recent years, I've kicked the swap up a notch even further by treating myself to a homemade gelatin and whipped cream, not the store-bought sugar-filled stuff. And I'm still able to satisfy the sweet tooth without having to spend the extra hour on the treadmill just to get back to even. My sister-in-law started a habit of eating crunchy and salty junk food when she was watching TV. She'd crunch through a whole bag of tortilla chips and with little actual awareness. Then she realized that what she really enjoyed was the crunchy sensation in her mouth. She decided to replace her habit with crunching on a carrot and celery sticks and raw broccoli spears. She got the same joyful sensation and her FDA recommended vegetable servings at the same time. A guy who used to work for me had a bad habit of drinking 8 to 10 Diet Cokes a day, and that's a bad habit. I just suggested to him that he replace them with low sodium carbonated water, adding fresh lemon, lime, or oranges. And he did this for about a month before realizing it, he didn't even need the carbonation at all. He switched to just plain water and play with this. Just play with this and see what behaviors you can replace, delete, or swap out. Yesterday I had dates and I was reading all up like dates and like how they're super, super good for you. And one of the things that I was actually thinking, I'm like, I can replace like, let's say, like a chocolate cookie or whatever. I was just mentioning to my dad because he's a sweet tooth. I was like, what if you were to replace, that cookie or whatever with a date or maybe 3 dates, and then he tasted the date and stuff and he was like, oh, that's interesting. Because like if we can just substitute things, we can still get that same fix, get the fixing in, and then we can still enjoy what we want without harming ourselves and our future selves. Number 4, ease in. I live near the Pacific Ocean. Whenever I get into the water, I get my ankles acclimated first, then walk into my knees, then it's my waist and chest before taking the plunge. Some people just run and dive in and get it over with. Good for them. It's not for me. I like to ease my way in, probably residual trauma from my childhood, as you'll see in the next strategy. For some of your long-standing and deep-rooted habits, it may be more effective to take small steps to ease into the unwinding them. You might have to spend decades repeating, cementing, and fortifying those habits, so it may be wise to give yourself some time to unravel them, one step at a time. A few years ago, my wife's doctor required she cut out caffeine from her diet for several months. We both love our coffee. So if she was going to have to suffer, I decided it was only fair that we do it together. We first went to a 50-50 and then 50% decaffeinated and 50% regular for a week, then 100% decaf for another week, then Earl Grey decaf tea for a week, followed by decaf green tea. And it took us a month to get us there. But we didn't suffer even a moment of caffeine withdrawals, no headaches, no sleepiness, no brain fog, no nothing. However, if we had gone cold turkey, well, I shiver at the thought. Number 5, jump in. Now, everyone is wired the same way. Some researchers have found that it can be paradoxically easier for people to make lifestyle changes if they change many habits at once. For example, pioneering cardiologist Dr. Dean Ornish found he could reverse people's advanced heart disease without medication or surgery with dramatic lifestyle changes. He discovered they often found it easier to say goodbye to almost all of their bad habits at once. He enrolled them in a training session where he substituted a very low-fat diet for their fat and cholesterol-rich fare. The program included exercise, getting rid of their couches and walking or jogging, as well as stress reduction techniques and other heart healthy habits. Amazingly, in less than a month, those patients learned to let go of a lifetime of bad habits and embrace new ones. And they went on to experience dramatic health benefits after a year as a result. Personally, I find this to be an exception, not the rule, but you'll have to figure out the strategy that works best for you. When I was a kid, my family camped at a little known spot called Lake Rollins. The lake, situated not far from the Sierras in Northern California, is fed from glaciers that melt from atop of the mountains of Lake Tahoe. The water's ridiculously cold. Every day we were there, my dad insisted that I water ski in the polar pond. All day I would be quietly anxious about the dreaded call to go in. I loved to water ski. I just hated getting in the water. A slight conflict of interest because, of course, there was no separating one from another. And Dad made sure that I never missed my turn, sometimes by actually physically throwing me in. After a dozen or so excruciating seconds of near hypothermia, I always found the water refreshing and rejuvenating. My anticipation of getting in the water was actually worse than the reality of jumping in. Once my body acclimated, the water skiing was a blast. And yet I went through the cycle of dread and relief each and every time. The experience isn't unlike suddenly dropping or changing a bad habit. So for a short while, it may feel excruciating or at least quite uncomfortable. But similar to the body adjusting to a changing environment through a process called homeostasis, we have a similar homeostatic ability to adjust to unfamiliar behavior changes. And then usually we are able to regulate ourselves psychologically, physiologically to the new circumstances quite quickly. Sometimes waiting in won't do. Sometimes you really don't have to jump in full force. Ask yourself now, where can I start slow and then hold myself accountable? And where do I need to take that bigger leap? And where have I been avoiding pain or discomfort when I know deep down that I'll adapt in no time and I'll just go for it? One of my former partners has a brother who was a beer guzzling, bar brawling, life of the party alcoholic. He drank at lunch, dinner, after dinner, and all weekend long. One day he was at a wedding for a former college roommate when he saw his friend's brother, who was 10 years older than both of them, but he looked 10 years younger. He watched the man dance, laugh, and play during the wedding, exuding a vitality he hadn't felt in many years. He made a decision on the spot that he would never touch a drop of alcohol again. Cold turkey, that was it, never again. And he hasn't since, now, some 15 years later. When it comes to changing bad habits at home, I'm a toe dipper. But in my professional life, I find that taking a big plunge is far more effective. Whether committing to a new business or dealing with new potential clients, partners, or investors, toe dipping usually doesn't cut it. Each time I think of Lake Rollins, I know it will be painful at first, but I remember that within a little time, it will be exhilarating and well worth the temporary discomfort. Run a vice check. I'm not suggesting you cut out every bad thing in your life. Most everything is good. Most everything is good in moderation. But how can you tell whether a bad habit is becoming the boss of you? I believe in testing my vices. So every so often I go on a vice fast. I pick one vice and check to be sure I'm still the alpha dog in our relationship. My vices are coffee, ice cream, wine, and movies. I already told you about my ice cream obsession. And when it comes to wine, I want to be sure I'm enjoying a glass and celebrating the day, not drowning a bad mood. About every 3 months, I pick one vice and abstain for 30 days. This probably stems from my Catholic Lent upbringing. I love proving to myself that I'm still in charge. Try this yourself. Pick a vice, something you do in moderation, but you know doesn't contribute to your highest good, and take yourself on a 30-day wagon run. If you find it seriously difficult to abstain for those 30 days, you may have found a habit worth cutting out of your life. That's so freaking good. That is so freaking good because I've done the same thing with alcohol, actually. I haven't drank alcohol in a while, and like lately I don't even crave it. So interesting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this last fourth part of chapter 3, part 4, where we're going to go over the 6 techniques for actually instilling and installing the good habits within. So make sure to check out the next read with me session where we're going to go over the six techniques for installing good habits. And I'll see you in the next one. this has been really great. Just as a recap, here are the 5 strategies for eliminating bad habits. Number 1 is identifying those triggers. Number 2 is cleaning house, making sure to get rid of anything that doesn't suit you. And then number 3, swapping it. What can you do to replace something that you currently have? One of the examples was replacing cookies with dates instead. Dates as in like the fruit date, the sweet date, right? Instead of using fake sugary things to quench your sweet tooth. And then number 4 is easing in, ease in. He was mentioning one of the ways that he was able to ease out of coffee with his wife. He didn't just go cold turkey. He took a month to actually slow himself and his wife into not having coffee. So if you do it cold turkey, it might not actually sustain long term. It will actually just bring you back to, doing it harder and more heavier and all of that. And then number 5 is jumping in, making that decision, going in and making sure that you can sustain that over and over and over, and making sure that you have something of like control within yourself, and he finally finishes it off with the vice check. I love this so much. If you have enjoyed the compound effect, make sure to hit the like, make sure to hit the share, make sure to share what it is that you're getting out of this book, because everybody, whenever you read this book, there's so many different cool things that we learn about ourselves, that we remember about ourselves, that we want to implement. And the more that we can actually remember, the more that we're able to really just apply more consciously, right? Applying more consciously and not having to be so dependent on what the outside world thinks or what the outside world is trying to convince you of. You have the power, you have the authority, you have the control. Go out there and get it. Make sure that you understand what it is that you want. Have a clear understanding of what you want and go get it. It's your life, no one else's. I'll talk to you soon. See you in the next video. Bye.